Three, two, one, and we're live. Welcome once again to HeroQuest fans here on Twitch and later YouTube. So I just had a little bit of a soapbox moment there earlier, and now that I've gotten that out of my system, I just want to say welcome. It's been a little while, but I've got a few topics I want to talk about, and in past streams I've complained about how as soon as I get done talking about whatever I'm going to talk about, there's suddenly a flurry of updates. So if you're on Twitter or Instagram or Facebook and you see some big groundbreaking thing, it'll probably appear in the Discord channel, server, chat, and then I'll hear about it after the stream is over. Or you can throw it into the chat. I'll try to be checking it here periodically, but if I miss something, sorry about that. I'll have to do another one. So the first thing I wanted to cover is, and this is again, I'm trying to keep the politics and stuff, out of the picture. This is more of a behind the scenes kind of thing. So I came up with this, and I didn't want it to sound too inflammatory or anything, but I sent this actually to customer care or customer service at Hasbro. And I'm just going to go ahead and read it. I posted this in Yield forums as well. So, hello Hasbro. I'm very concerned about the imminent remake and re-release or release of classic packs Hero Quest Barbarian Quest Pack The Frozen Horror and Elf Quest Pack Mage of the Mirror from 1992 and their potential negative impact to the community and the brand. Now here I didn't want anybody to think I'm saying don't release them, but I'll continue on. Why? Aren't these the most sought after North American releases of all time, guaranteed to make tons of money in pre-orders in record time? Don't these packs regularly sell for hundreds or thousands of dollars in eBay or on eBay, even in used condition? I'm not saying these should not be released, and I'm sure that this will be no problem for those who only wish to play with the miniatures or resell the products on eBay. But the majority will want to open the box and play. And when they do, they will be hit almost immediately with some issues we've known about for 3 decades. Here's the problem, and this is an open secret with the HeroQuest fan community that the HeroQuest fan community has known for decades. These quests are quote unquote broken. That is, they clearly did not receive adequate playtesting. Despite their big ideas, the difficulty in them is extreme. We have in our communities documented numerous examples of errors. Number 1, treasure chests surrounded by trap tiles. This is not how traps work. An orange treasure chest has a trap that triggers if it is searched without first disarming the trap, because there is no mechanic for walking up to the chest in order to open it, being required to obtain the contents inside. This error creeps up in the first 3 quests of the Barbarian Quest Pack, for example. Number 2, numerous examples of unmarked treasure chests. The Elf Pack is notorious for this. A treasure chest is surrounded by powerful monsters and is not marked, meaning the player must draw a treasure card. This seems to be an oversight. And just a little bit more detail on that. So normally when you have a piece of furniture, it's just an obstacle in HeroQuest. In the quest notes, which only Zargon or Morcar, the GM, will be reading, there'll be some note if there's anything special about it. In most cases, when you see a weapons rack, maybe there's going to be something, and if there's a treasure chest, maybe there'll be something. So when heroes see that, they'll think, okay, when I search for treasure, maybe I'll get something special because of that piece of furniture. Well, a lot of times the treasure chest it'll just say it's empty or there's a trap on it. But once the trap is sprung, you'll find this. But if there's no note at all, you're supposed to draw a treasure card because that's what you would do if it was just an empty room. But anyway, less commentary, and I'll just continue on with the letter. So number 3 that I sent to Hasbro. Number 3, unused artifacts. Yes, it is true. The players can be inspired to use whatever assets are found in order to make their own adventures. But the Elf Quest Pack grants the Elven Bracers, similar to the Barbarian Pack's Amulet of the North, granting 2 body points and 1 mind point. Yet it is never given to the elf in any of the quests, nor can it be found by searching. Fans have suggested giving it as a reward for completing the first or third solo quests, or else placing it in one of the many unmarked treasure chests. Similarly, the Armband of Ice is never granted in the Barbarian Quest Pack. Point number 4, impossible monsters. The Yeti is a creature that if it does any damage to a hero, and it is not a weak monster, it automatically grabs the hero in a hug that deals 2 body points of damage every turn. Worse, the hero cannot escape from it unless the monster holding him is killed by another. The Yeti cannot defend while in the hold. This is a tough situation in the group quests, but the first solo quests where the barbarian fights alone, he has a good chance of facing a Yeti very early. Either remove the Yeti or provide an opportunity for the barbarian to be joined by a mercenary to protect his back. Someone else suggested, well, or just have a way for him to get out of the hold without someone else having to be involved. Additionally, the polar war bear makes 2 attacks per turn, and the heroes can only defend once. It is unclear if this means the second attack is always unblockable, or if a good heroic defensive roll can cover skulls from both attacks. This is a very powerful monster. Next, the ogres have 10 body points, which is a very high amount, meaning a very long quest is in store, since multiple instances of them appear, though this is less of a problem compared to the Yeti. Point number 5, high frustration. The solo quests are billed as being intended for new heroes, that is, base level heroes who don't have saved up gold, potions, or extra equipment and artifacts, only their starting gear. Worse yet, it is implied that brand new players to HeroQuest should undertake these missions in order to catch up to the other heroes. While it is true that the solo quests in these 2 packs do offer opportunities for new weapons, armor, potions, and even artifacts, the difficulty is extreme, and most players will be killed 90 to 95% of the time, forcing them to repeat the quest over and over, making them much less likely to want to play with the others. This is in contrast to the relatively easy beginner level quests found in the second and third Dave Morris HeroQuest novels, Screaming Spectre and Tyrant's Tomb, albeit under the UK rules. So just a note here, yeah, the Dave Morris novels were not released in North America, but they each contained, well, the second and third ones, the first one didn't, but they contained a solo quest. And one was for the wizard, and he finds a barbarian who can help him. The other one's for a barbarian, and he finds a wizard who can help him. So you're still not completely on your own. Elf Quest Pack and Barbarian Quest Pack each had those 3 solo quests, and they were just extremely difficult. Point number 6 in the letter to Hasbro. No mercenaries for the elf. The elf quests are almost as difficult as the barbarian quests, and yet there are no mercenaries to be found, except in 1 or 2 cases where enemy elves can become allies. As such, the ability to hire mercenaries or have additional reinforcements for these quests may be warranted to avoid the dreaded TPK, total party kill, being a frequent thing. So when all the heroes die and you have to start over. And really though, with the HeroQuest rules, if the heroes completely die and fail the quest, Zargon is supposed to rearrange the maze, rearrange the dungeon before they play it again. And so it's not as if they can just keep playing and just memorize it and beat it through sheer, memorization, trial and error. It's going to be different. So it needs a little extra something. Continuing with the letter. We are not asking for easy quests. We're not asking for the legacy of HeroQuest and history to be erased. But I think without some kind of disclaimer, errata, or helpful list of community-approved suggestions for these 2 packs, it will result in a fan backlash online in terms of these, which could hurt the brand, the franchise, and future HeroQuest endeavors, and even faith in the company itself from the customer standpoint. I beg whoever is working on these remakes, whether at Hasbro or Avalon Hill, to please do their research to see what fans have found in terms of workarounds for these problems to make the quests playable and even enjoyable. Buyers shouldn't be forced to track us down after they buy the product to get the answers that should have come from the company that released it. So yeah, a couple things I wanted to say about that. It sounds kind of dramatic. A few people thought it was overly negative. Some people were even, thought that I went too far, that I just shouldn't say anything. That any true HeroQuest fan would be happy to get the Barbarian Quest Pack and the Elf Quest Pack remade. And it's not going to matter. People are going to buy it anyway, so on and so forth. They just want to see it warts and all. Now, I agree to a certain extent that the warts and all approach is something that I kind of want myself. I mean, I was happy that the remake of HeroQuest did not introduce a ton of changes. I mean, aesthetically it was changed, but that was about it. But the fact is, um, there's all we as fans always have the ability to fix the product afterwards. But not every person who buys HeroQuest from here on is going to be, a 30-year fan, a 30-year diehard fan. I sort of compare it to, so I hate to keep bringing it up, but I always do. I'm a Star Wars fan. Okay, I was born in the '70s. I've always liked Star Wars, but I recognize that there's a certain part of the Star Wars community, you might call them fanboys. I hate to say it, but I was once one of them, which was I felt like this is perfect. You can't say anything against it. You've just got to love it all. And you're not a true fan unless you know it all and love it all. But over time, I mean, so many products were released from Star Wars, so many novels, comics, games, toys. The movies started being revised and changed by George Lucas. You had the prequels, and then Disney bought it, and you had the sequels and more changes. It's impossible for someone to honestly be like, I just love everything, because what you're really saying is no matter what happens, you like it. So it's kind of like the company could just say, okay, well, here's all the Star Wars stuff, and we're just going to like burn it in a fire. And you like that too, because you like whatever they tell you to like. And that to me just doesn't make any sense. It just seems like a cult. It just seems like brand loyalty. I was attracted to Star Wars because I liked the characters. I was excited by the adventure story. It reminded me of other things like in mythology or like religion or history. It was fun because of that. Some people like things just because they're nostalgic. Okay, so you like HeroQuest. You remember opening up the box. You remember seeing those flyers that said, "Hey, there's new quest packs out there. There's new expansions. The Barbarian Quest Pack, the Frozen Terror, and they later called it the Frozen Horror." And a lot of us didn't even get to play those because it was gone, like just like that. People sent in their check for $15 or whatever it was, or $10 plus $2 shipping, and then they got a letter back saying, "I'm sorry, this product is no longer available." And so nowadays you go to get on eBay and you've got this really rare quest pack, and oh, it's $500. Oh man. And so people buy them. And I would think they would get buyer's remorse because if they remember how HeroQuest was and how it played, they remember Keller's Keep, they remember Return of the Witch Lord, that sets a standard of quality. And so any new installments, apart from just being a curiosity, it's going to need to follow that. And we've used that same judgment to judge the Crypt of Perpetual Darkness, the Spirit Queen's Torment, and the Prophecy of Telor, these new remake HeroQuest installments. It's the same thing with any other fandom. So Star Wars, when the prequels came out, there were people that loved them. They were like, "Oh man, Jar Jar Binks is great. Darth Maul is awesome. I love Count Dooku. I love, General Grievous. I love all this stuff. The Clone Wars, oh, so amazing." And then other people were like, it's not as good. And then the fanboys, let's say, the new fans, were like, how would you dare criticize this? This is Star Wars. This was made by, George Lucas. There's no standard. I would say no. And it's not just nostalgia. The bar was already set by the previous products. And so you're expecting the new product to follow and be at least as good, if not better, than what came before. And if you're going to tear one thing down, okay, fine, you're tearing the whole thing down. And some people did that. They said, well, the prequels aren't perfect, but the original Star Wars wasn't perfect either. It's like, okay, but why do you like it then? Do you like it just because it's Star Wars, or do you like it because it has something in it that's enjoyable? Like a lot of nostalgic things I pick up, they haven't aged very well for me. So maybe I'll pick it up and go, gosh, this sure was fun. I remember liking it as a kid, but you know what? Nowadays, it just doesn't do it for me. So after a couple days, just put it aside and that's it. HeroQuest, I picked it up again and I appreciate it more, I think, than even when I did when I was a kid. And so that's great. Now, the thing with the Barbarian Quest pack is since I didn't have it as a kid, I don't have nostalgia for it. The only nostalgia I have is seeing that flyer and going, I wonder what that one's like. Wouldn't it be cool to have that? And all those new blue miniatures. Well, I think most players are like that. And yes, as fans, we've seen the scans. Hasbro has had the rule book out for years. They just moved it to another section. It's kind of hard to find now, but you could see what the quests were like. And yeah, you didn't have the miniatures maybe, but you could substitute and kind of recreate it. But then you find all these problems, all these bugs, all these glitches that I talked about. But see, the general public has no idea. All they know is this is a new product. They're going to get it and go, why is it so hard? Why are there so many glitches? How come these supposedly beginner quests, kill you 95% of the time and, get you to hate the game? Because if we're talking about 10-year-olds here, I mean, are your parents forcing you to play or are you playing because you want to? A lot of kids are going to go, I don't like this. I just want to play a mobile game instead. So I think if they provide a list of suggestions for the Barbarian Quest Pack and the Elf Quest Pack, they can release those legacy products. And the veteran fans like myself, can get the game warts and all, and the new fans, the new casual buyers, can get it and go, oh, okay, this is what you're supposed to do. This is how you're supposed to play it. This is how it makes sense. This is how it rises to the level of quality of the previous quest, rather than going, gee, this is trash. I don't like Hero Quest anymore, and then give up. And then the company is going to say, gee, our profits are going down. We're going to stop making these products. I guess, and then blame the fans and say, oh, the fans, they just don't like this stuff. Now, I may have been becoming a little bit too dramatic earlier because I'm talking about like this, the franchise is going to stand or fall by each new product that comes out. That may not be true. We know that Hero Quest remake version through Avalon Hill Hasbro is going to be in retail. So you can presumably walk into any big box retail store or order it, depending on COVID restrictions, and just buy it. So maybe the Barbarian Quest pack comes out and it's just a flop. It's a failure. Okay, well maybe it disappears from store shelves and becomes a eBay collector's item again. All right, that doesn't help the company, but they can still keep selling the game system. They can keep selling Keller's Keep, Return of the Witch Lord. That's fine. But what is going to encourage them to invest in new quest packs? I can see them releasing another one really quick, going, "Oh, here's an apology. We want all the fans to like us again. Here's a new quest pack that's definitely better than that trash that you just threw away." But that's a big risk for them. So I can see them going back and forth releasing a legacy product like the Barbarian Quest Pack, like the Elf Quest Pack, like Against the Ogre Horde, like Wizards of Morcar, like the Dark Company, like the Dave Morris quests, like the Marvel Winter Special. But they'll probably alternate back and forth with new stuff, like the Knight, the Commander of the Guardian Knights, Hero Collection, or maybe a brand new quest book. So you're going to get new stuff and old stuff. And I mentioned this in the Covert Nerd podcast that I recently did. Lee is doing another set of HeroQuest themed episodes, and he got to interview me as the first one. So I was honored to be the first one for the HeroQuest remake, and I shared my opinions there. So I don't mean to repeat everything I said there, but I really think that they are taking a risk with this next one. They're probably thinking, yeah, everybody wants it, so everybody must love it. But as I was told by several people, you don't release a broken product and then just let the customers fix it themselves. What you need to do is either fix it or give them a kit that fixes it right away, because otherwise you're going to lose the new people who are not so forgiving as we are. But yeah, we can be pretty harsh, some of the fan community. But anyway, so that was I guess that's almost another soapbox, but it's related directly. Oh yeah, that's the Discord right there that you're seeing. It's really related directly to HeroQuest. So going into the next topic, talking about Japanese HeroQuest. So I've said a lot about this. I've said a lot about Hispa Zargon, great guy on Ye Olde Inn, doing a lot of work picking up the mantle of the Japanese HeroQuest in English, picking up where a lot of other people left off. And credit where credit is due. He was not the first or only person to do this, but he's really done a great job, done a lot of hard work on it. And I've covered pretty much everything, except there has been a few new things. So we read through the rules of play for the Japanese version. We looked at the quest book. I mean, I didn't look at a lot of spoilers because I think they're worth playing. Now, if you play the Japanese game with the Japanese rules, that's an experience I haven't had yet. I haven't done that because I haven't printed out all the cards and everything. I kind of want to do it though. It could be really interesting. Totally different challenge than the other versions of the game. But I just went through the titles just to show you that it is a different set of 14 quests. It's not just translated into Japanese and then back into English from the European or North American versions. We looked at the game screen. We looked at the character boards. We looked at the monster cards. Now, there are some new things that we haven't looked at. So let me just see what you're seeing here. Okay, so let's look at the Legendary Treasures again, because he did revise these. And again, he's not the first person. Shang did them. Okay, it's slowly going to appear. Look at that render speed. Wow. Oh, man. Well, I'll just start reading it. So the Legendary Treasures are what artifacts are called in this version. And if you can see that, let's just put page width, good old PDF. Okay, so the Talisman of Lore, as you can see in this version, is very different. It doesn't just give you a mind point or two, it actually revives a dead hero. So it's kind of like the Elixir of Life, but it can actually revive all the heroes. And it resets their gold to 0. Because in the Japanese version, normally the first time you die, you get revived at a temple in between quests at the cost of all your gold. After that, you don't get to come back. But when you find the Talisman of Lore, you basically can regenerate or resurrect or restore to life all the heroes as many times as you want. So it kind of makes the game a little bit easy once you get there. Let's see what else. The Flame Axe, which should be taken by the dwarf. Now, there was a question of, okay, so there are these special artifacts that you need to kill the final bad guy, the evil god character, boss, that Grimdead, or Zargon, is trying to revive. What if one of the heroes dies and he isn't able to come back? You just lose? Because if only the dwarf can use the flame axe, no one else can like take it up if he gets killed. So there's a little bit of a vagueness there, as there is in a lot of Hero Quest. But you will notice the flame axe attacks with 4 combat dice, because the weapons in this version do have different values, not just different amounts of gold that they're worth. But yeah, the legendary treasures. So you got the flame axe, the wand of recall. This is taken up by the magician, which is what they call the wizard in this version. And it will let you cast the spells of a single element of magic as often as you want during a quest. So very powerful. So this is different than the Wand of Recall in the European version. It's different than the Wand of Magic because you can just keep doing those fire spells over and over, let's say, or earth spells or whatever it is. And then you've got the Silver Blade, which is a 5 attack die weapon that's, it's used by the warrior. And then last of all, you've got the Freeze Bow. Just take a look. Yep. Yeah, the Freeze Bow can only be, well, it's taken up by the elf. In the Japanese version, only the elf can use a crossbow. So very different than the other versions of the game where the crossbow is just a weapon anybody can use except for the wizard. And here, the Freeze Bow does 4 combat dice worth of damage. You can attack enemies at a distance, but you can't attack enemies in squares surrounding you. Now that is a different thing because there's this vagueness in the rules, and it's a huge ongoing topic for years and years. People have debated, what did the designers intend in the North American version? Yes, you can't shoot adjacent squares. You can shoot at least 2 squares away, otherwise unlimited range. But it doesn't say, when they say adjacent, do they mean just north, south, east, and west? Up, down, left, right? Or do they mean those 4 diagonal squares that are closest to you? You know, the northeast, southeast, southwest, northeast. Can you hit those? Some people say yes, in which case the crossbow is extremely powerful. And it makes you wonder why you would ever buy a longsword for 350 gold, the same price, when the longsword can hit those four diagonal squares. But if the crossbow can as well, it's kind of like, why would you do that? Other people say no, you can't hit those four diagonals. You still need an extra square away. So the 8 squares that surround your figure on the board can't be hit by the crossbow, but all the other squares out from that can be hit. Keep in mind, in the European version, it's a very different system of targeting. It's kind of like, as long as they're in the same room with you, or the same corridor without something in between, you can hit them. The North American version is supposed to be line of sight. So you draw a straight line from your figure to the target, and if anything is in the way, another figure, piece of furniture, wall, closed door, that stops it. So in this version, it seems as if those 8 squares surrounding you can't be hit, period. And wouldn't it be nice if that was a clarification in the other versions, but we don't know for sure. So it's kind of a long-winded explanation, but yeah. So he thanks the original people, Malkadon, Nightcrawler, Shang, Aaron B, Bob, Blue Sun, Fenrir 79, Jackie X, and Daedalus. So anyway, good stuff. Let me just look at the chat here. So we got some people. So welcome to Gareth Hredmar. I think that's yeah, that's the painting guy. He's done some cool videos with painting miniatures and figures. So check him out on Twitch and go with him. I don't think I've seen that person before, so welcome. And of course, Sika Shem, who is a regular at the Discord channel server. So welcome, all of you. Let's see. No one said Jar Jar Binks is amazing. No one. Actually, Sika Shem, I remember a lot of people, let's just say a lot of like young women and kids said they thought Jar Jar was great. I don't know if they still say that, but I always thought Jar Jar was like Roger Rabbit, like from Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and it was just I don't know. It's like I felt like George Lucas made the movie too serious, and so he thought, okay, I got to squeeze this comic relief in there to please the children, and it was I don't know. People just kind of didn't treat him like he was the anomaly that he was. I mean, at least in Empire Strikes Back, when C-3PO was being annoying, people just tell him to shut up, and slap him around. But I don't know. There are parts of Episode One that I like, and there's a lot of parts that I don't like. It's just kind of one of those things. But I think by that point, I was starting to kind of be broken out of my fanboyism and not be like, Star Wars is great, Star Wars is perfect, Star Wars is my religion. It's just like, it's a bunch of fun movies and it's got flaws, and I can acknowledge that those flaws exist. But yeah. So anyway, let's go on to the next topic here. So I kind of get off on rants, and I don't mean to do that. And I'm not saying other people can't rant. I think when you get to the point where like it comes down to personal attacks and it's like you're a bad person for disagreeing with me, that's when I just hang it up because it's not worth it. Like I just want to have fun. I just want to do it to have a good time, enjoy myself, and other people think I'm wrong. Great, that's great. You don't have to change my mind. You can try if you want to, but I like to hear other points of view. So there's Star Wars fans out there that love Episode One. There's Star Wars fans out there that love The Last Jedi. There's Star Wars fans out there that probably love the holiday special, and it's like, great, more power to you. But I think Hero Quest has good and bad in it, and I want to see it succeed. So if I were giving Hasbro my advice, which I did, then I think they should do that, or they should do something else to make it succeed, so that it keeps on going, and so that it isn't just something that dies out after a year. You know. Okay, so back to the Japanese version. So we talked about the legendary treasure. So the equipment cards. So this is Hispa Zargon's translation of the equipment cards. Now again, with this version of the game, you don't have an armory. Instead, you've got these equipment cards, just like the European version, just like the remake. And there's strengths and weaknesses to having these cards instead of a little menu to order from. Now, in the Japanese version, they talk about the armory. It's just a concept. It's not, it's like in between quests, you go to the shop to buy stuff, but there's really no shop. It's just a stack of cards. And in the, excuse me, just had to get some water there. Cheers, dead gamer. In with these equipment cards, you can buy stuff, but you are limited by the number of cards, which is not true of any other version. Any other version of Hero Quest, you pick up the card, you write the stuff down, and you put the card back in the deck, or you discard it. In this version, you're supposed to hang on to the card, and yes, you do write it down. But I have looked at it, and I noticed that there's enough cards for pretty much everybody to have everything they want, except this first item here, which is the heal potion. So instead of a potion of healing, it's called a heal potion originally, most accurate translation. You'll notice it costs 200 gold and it restores 2 lost body points, which is actually, and when I printed out my custom cards, I made a mistake. So in the remake, it's the same way. So I believe Stephen Baker must have remembered this or saw it because he and his quest, and he didn't have an actual card for it, it's just an illustration in the book, like a reference, is that you can buy a potion of healing that restores 2 for 200 gold. 2 for 200, Alex. Rest in peace. So anyway, there's only 4 heal potions. So each hero can have 1. Now you could say, well, the magician and the elf may already have healing spells, so maybe they should give these to the other heroes. But yeah, there's only 4. So when you use one up, okay, now there's another one to buy. Limited stock. You got the spear or javelin, which is 2 attack dice. It can attack diagonally. You can throw it, but if you throw it, you lose it. And in this version, it can be used by anybody except for the magician. So pretty standard. You got the hand axe that is actually worth 3 attack dice, which is pretty powerful, more powerful than the European version. You can throw it, but it's lost when thrown. And now it can only be used by the warrior, that is the barbarian, or the dwarf. So this one they disallow the elf, and unlike the remake, they disallow the magician or wizard from using it. I'm sure that was an error, but it's a fortunate one for wizard fans. He gets a stronger weapon in that version. The short sword. Now, their short sword in the Japanese version is basically like the North American long sword, because even though it's a short blade, it attacks with 3 combat dice and it lets you attack diagonally. So pretty good for 250 gold. And the elf can use it just like the dwarf and the warrior. Then you've got the broadsword for 4. So the broadsword is kind of like the battle axe, except there's no shield restriction. And it's 500 gold, but it can only be used by the warrior. So there you go. Now, if he's using the silver blade, he's got an upgrade. So yeah, each of the heroes basically gets what they want. Now, I guess with the weapons, okay, you are limited there. So there's only 1 hand axe, 1 spear, 1 short sword, 1 broadsword. But you would give each hero the strongest weapon that they're able to use. That makes sense to me. Now I've got the club. Originally, he translated this as stick, like the stick, like pool cue. Just kidding. But it's a club or a cudgel. So 2 attack dice, and you can use it diagonally. It can be used by anyone. So it's like the wizard, using the staff. 100 gold, same price. Crossbow. So again, we talked about this already. 3 attack dice, and you can't attack enemies in the squares surrounding you. So those 8 squares around you, and it can only be used by the elf in this version. So let me just head back to the chat to see the shocked reactions. Just kidding. No, everybody's cool. Okay, and then we got plate armor. Notice the European spelling. That was his stylistic choice when making these. Wearing plate armor allows you to roll 4 combat dice in defense. So in the North American version, we always interpret this as you've got your 2 dice base defense for each hero, and you add 2 more by putting the armor on. So you could put on the plate armor, and then you could add a helmet. You could pick up a shield. So you got 2, 3, 4, and then add the original 5, 6. So that'd be your maximum defense before you add any potions or anything else. Now in this version, they make it so only the warrior, that is the barbarian, can wear the plate armor. And notice there's nothing about his movement being restricted. So yeah, that's a difference. And still 850 gold. Then you've got the cloak, so known as the Cloak of Protection in the European version, and it's not found in the remake or the North American version. Wearing the cloak allows you to roll 1 extra combat die in defense, only be used by the magician, and it's 350 gold. You got the shield. You got 3 instances of the shield, so limited stock there. But really that works out because only those 3 can use them anyway. The dwarf, the elf, and the warrior. 150 gold. So pretty standard. In fact, it's identical to the North American version. Then you got the helmet. Wearing the helmet allows you to roll 1 extra combat die in defense. May only be used by the warrior and the dwarf. So the elf doesn't get it. Notice the elf's only armor is the shield. So he's going to be a little weaker than the other heroes. And it's now this time it's 250 gold, so much more expensive than the other versions. And you've got 2 instances of the helmet. That's okay because only 2 heroes can use them. So there's just his little change log there. So again, going through, okay, spells. So this was one that we didn't talk about before. This is recently translated. I'm a week out of date with this. But if we look at these translated cards, so the spells, like right away, subtle differences in this version compared to the others. You can see that the artwork, the eyes of the figures look a little different. So we've got Tempest. You may cast a spell on an enemy of your choice, which will be enveloped by a small tempest. The enemy will miss 1 turn. So identical to the other versions. Gust of wind. So instead of swift wind, it's gust of wind. You can cast this on yourself or an ally. This creates a gust of wind which can send the affected player flying to any place you wish. However, he cannot fly to a place where no one has been before. So totally different mechanic here. So instead of double movement, it's basically like a teleport. And it's not just to squares that you've been, but it's where anybody has been. So I guess any explored room or corridor. So pretty powerful, actually. And we've got the genie. Let's see. Now in this version, you can use this spell to attack any enemy anywhere on the board, even if it is not visible to you. So that's a clarification. And that's closer to the European version. In the North American version, it was explicitly within your line of sight. The genie attacks an enemy on the board only once by rolling 3 combat dice, so instead of 5. So it's actually quite weaker. The attacked enemy can defend according to its defense power. So it's stronger because it can target them anywhere. Monster can't hide from it, but it's only 3 dice. Then we've got courage. It's 2 extra combat dice and attack until the spell is broken. Spell is broken when there are no more enemies visible to the spellcaster. So pretty similar to the North American version. Fire of Wrath, or Far of Wrath, as they say in the European commercial. Everybody loves that meme. The spell can be cast on an enemy anywhere on the board, even if it is not visible to you. So you got that extra bonus. The enemy affected by the spell may then roll 1 combat die. If it does not roll a shield of its own kind, he loses 2 body points. So, of his own kind, so I guess you could attack another hero with it. So you'd need to roll a white shield, and a monster would have to roll a black shield. But 2 body points, so this is much stronger than your everyday English-speaking Fire of Wrath. Then we got Ball of Flame. Let's see. Roll 3 combat dice and inflict as many body points of damage as the number of skulls rolled. Let me read that again. Roll 3 combat dice and inflict as many body points of damage as the number of skulls rolled. So no defense. Now, it doesn't say that it's anywhere, so you got to be able to see the monster. But it's basically 3 unblockable hits, assuming you get skulls. So pretty powerful. Sleep. This puts a monster to sleep. The monster may try to defend itself by rolling as many combat dice as it has mind points. If the monster rolls a black shield, he is unaffected by the spell. So same odds as rolling a 6 for each of his mind points. A sleeping monster cannot defend if attacked. Once it is attacked, it will wake up from sleep. So the North American version, you could just keep hitting the monster and hitting him and just like killing him, until he's able to wake himself. And this one, okay, well, he just wakes up. I guess it's a little more fair for the monster that way. We got Veil of Mist. Veil of Mist is the same. You get to pass through squares that are occupied by enemies the next time you move. No difference there. Water of Restoration instead of Water of Healing. Still 4 body points, so it's the same. Healing instead of Heal Body. Same as before. 4 lost body points. We got Pass Through Rock. Oh yeah, these are the water spells. So into the earth spells. Let's see. Pass Through Rock. The enchanted player may then pass through walls the next time he moves. However, he cannot pass through walls to a place where no one has been before. So it seems a little limited. I mean, you're not going to risk killing yourself by getting stuck inside solid rock because you've never been there. But it's not going to be as good for exploration. Now, I could see this still being helpful. Let's say you're playing, I mean, the trial is not one of the 14 Japanese quests, but let's say you've got a bunch of heroes that are in a room and they're fighting some big monster and you're on the outside. You cast a spell on yourself, walk through the wall, join them in battle because they're already there. It's explored. So still useful, just not that risk taking spell like in the other versions. You got Rock Skin. Let's see, 2 extra combat dice in defense until the spell is broken. It's broken, the player takes damage in combat. So this is like the European version. The North American version, you only got 1 extra. European version, you got 2, and it still goes away if you lose a body point. So standard stuff there. All right, so again with Hespazargon's translations here, he talked about the tiles. There's really nothing to translate on the tiles. It's just, I've already seen these, but maybe some of you haven't, so I'll just throw them up on here. Throw them up, sorry. So pretty familiar, but notice that the falling block traps, it's an actual falling block, falling rubble, instead of just the rubble pile. So it's just kind of a unique thing. And in this version, there's no spear traps. But otherwise, the tiles look like the European ones. So notice the double blocked squares. And these rubble piles are used for the single block squares. So the North American version, they're these nice little brick patches, whereas they were rubble, like fallen rocks clustered around in the European version. And then this is just the black background. So, I mean, I like how he did that. Yeah, Shadzar posted the link, and he was a little grumpy. In fairness to him, he can be a little grumpy sometimes. Just ribbing him there. He was saying how in the retail versions of Keller's Keep and Return of the Witch Lord for the 2021 remake, they put black on the back of the tiles for Keller's Keep and Return of the Witch Lord instead of just being white like the Mythic tier. I mean, I guess maybe for collectors they would care because they would go, well, okay, you can tell the difference between one and the other. There's really no purpose in having the black background except, I mean, I guess the white background might get scuffed up, but no one's ever going to see it. And the fact that the tiles in the back are a different color, white, means that if you mix them all together, you'll be able to easily, visually see them and pull them out if you're trying to reorganize them. I guess I have heard some people will flip over like the stair tile or the double blocks and say, oh, it's a big pit, which is kind of cool, on the black on the back. Because I think the European versions of Keller's Keep and Return of the Witch Lord actually did have thick double-sided tiles with like black on the background for all the quest packs and not just the game system. Whereas the North American version, the The first two expansion tiles were thinner paper, like cheaper paper, and they were just white, just plain on the back. So it was a little kind of boring. But you could tell right away which one you were using. So I don't know, very minor thing. I don't think it's the end of the world, but it's just interesting. So more could be said about that, but yeah. So that pretty much does it for the Japanese version. I mean, the Japanese version, it had all the same furniture, had all the same figures, same board. I mean, you can see the box as just a translation. But they specifically call it an RPG. That didn't really blow up that well. Yeah, see, it says RPG on their role playing game. And they did try to introduce some more role playing mechanics in this version of the game. So after a few quests, the heroes between quests will get an option to cash in 500 gold for an opportunity to level up. And they roll dice. I think, if I remember correctly, the dwarf and the warrior would roll 3 dice, and the elf and the magician would roll 2 dice. And for every white shield that you get, or no, if you get 2 white shields, yeah, if you get 2 white shields, because you only get one opportunity, if you get 2 white shields, your maximum body point increases by 1. You can pay another 500 gold and try again, etc. Some quests they won't let you do it, and other ones they will. But in theory, you can have a lot of gold saved, and you could level up quite a few times by the end of the game, by the end of the 14 quests. And you get a lot more gold. I think you get like, let's see, how many. I'm just going to give you some numbers. These are going to be slightly off, but let's say in the North American version, you have like about 4,000 gold by the end of the 14 quests. You know, assuming you took every opportunity, you found everything, you got every good card. Okay, you sold stuff that you didn't need. You have about 4,000. In Japanese version, I think it's like 6 to 8,000, depending on what you get, because you can get a lot of stuff. And there's other rules that are interesting too, like I talked about this in the rule book discussion. When you get a wandering monster, it just appears, it attacks you with an unblockable attack, and it disappears. So there's no chance to counterattack. And the monster that attacks you, rather than just having one set monster for every quest, depends on the card. So there's 5 different monsters you could get. So all in all, I think it's an interesting version of the game, and I wouldn't mind playing it sometime. Just following the rules as closely as possible. So yeah, we're just kind of meandering from topic to topic here. So back to Ye Olde Inn. I don't know if this is fun for you, but it's fun for me. So I'm gonna keep on talking. So the Lost Quest packs. So we've talked about this in past streams. So we've got the Dwarf Quest pack and the Wizard Quest pack. These were never officially released. These were being worked on. It turns out now, I mean, we've learned a lot more details. So this guy Luca Pasci reminds me of The Godfather. The paperwork, like um, the notes, sketches, kind of the rough outline of what these quest packs would have been. So the non-disclosure agreements that the original people that worked on these have expired, and they just released their notes to the public, and he just happened to be able to buy them, and he's slowly scanning them and photographing them, documenting them, and that information is filtering to the community. So some cool things. I mean, we learned about some of their design process. So it looks like what they were doing is they were trying to make for the North American release 4 quest packs, and they were all going to be like really cookie cutter. 10 quests. The first 3 are a solo quest for that specific hero, so for the dwarf or the wizard or whoever. And you would have an alchemist shop where some of the potions are only for that hero. So finally, after all this time, excuse me, in the game system, they promised that the wizard, he needs to save his gold up. In the future, there's going to be powerful magic items that only he can use, and those will be in the future expansions. Well, we never got those. Well, the Wizard quest pack, eventually someday we'll know what those are. But yeah, he was going to get his own potions. And let's see. So you 10 quests. So the first three are solo quests for supposedly for a brand new Hero Quest player or for a hero to get caught up with the other heroes. And there would be special artifacts that only that hero can use as well. And then the last two quests would be a two-parter. So there's no chance for you to heal, restore your used up spells, or visit the shops in between. You just like go from one to the other. So it's very difficult. But it's clear that the design team, like they broke it up. So they would have, I guess, one person working on each one. So I guess there were four people, and they sent them miniatures to work with. And the miniatures, a lot of them were, well, let's see, they sent them the miniatures from the European quest packs. So from Against the Ogre Horde and Wizards of Morcar, and said you can use some of these or you can modify them, but we want you to make new miniatures also. So that was kind of interesting to hear that. And they gave some suggestions and they talked about some design problems. They said that the Milton Bradley tiles, like the tile machine, didn't always cut straight, so you had to have like a wide bleed area. So, I mean, they still to this day, we have that issue with the remake, stuff being a little off center, not quite perfect. Of course, you could say they had a lot more excuse back then than now. But anyway, I just wanted to share some other things that we've learned, which some people have known for ages. So the dwarf quest pack, they have this thing called Dwarf Metal. I don't know if that was the final name or just what they were calling it. So in Lord of the Rings, you had Mithril. It was a special metal that the dwarves would mine. I think in Warhammer Fantasy, what's it called? Like Gromin, Growin, Gromine or something. I don't know. I don't play Warhammer. I just read stuff on the internet, so somebody could tell me what that really is and laugh. What is that dwarven stuff that the Britannian Knights, it's the sought after metal. I think the Chaos Warriors, their armor's made out of something special too. But anyway, there's dwarf metal. So the idea is in the dwarf quest pack, which is I think was only like 50 or 60% completed, whereas the wizard quest pack was like 80 to 90% completed. And again, but never released to the public. The idea was that Zargon's forces are trying to get this dwarf metal, and that'll be a big problem because all their troops will be outfitted with this really good armor, so you're trying to stop them. And there were going to be good dwarves and bad dwarves. And the other thing that all of these quest packs had in common is that there was going to be a female version of each of the heroes. So the barbarian quest pack, you got a female barbarian, and she was just like the male barbarian. It's just if you wanted to have a girl instead of a boy as your character, you got a cool little miniature for that. So there was going to be a female dwarf and a female wizard, but we just never got them. Hasbro gave that to us in the 2021 remake. But now Hasbro's approach was to, other than the barbarian, I mean, they just kind of like they changed the chest and they changed the legs a little bit and they got rid of the facial hair and that's like, okay, that's a woman. Same outfit, same pose and everything. I liked the way the original ones were because they had, first of all, the figures were in blue instead of red, and they had like a different pose and everything. So they wouldn't have necessarily been exactly the same, just a new character. Because the barbarian is just represents the character type, let's say. So there's lots of different ways a barbarian could look. Lots of different ways a wizard or magician could look. Lots of different ways a dwarf could look. They don't have to be wearing the exact same gear, same exact pose, same facial expression. You know what I mean? And then there were different colors too. Now they didn't go into this, but in the Elf Quest pack, you had the ogres were kind of a dark blue color, and everybody else was like light blue. And in the Barbarian Quest pack, you had the mercenaries who were gray, and those are just like the Men at Arms and Wizards of Morcar and the Dark Company. But anyway, I mean, stuff was used from the original European expansions that North American players didn't get. And those miniatures were designed by Citadel Games Workshop. I was learning that, and other people had said this before, so it's not a big secret, is that the new miniatures that were designed were not designed by Games Workshop. However, some of the people that worked on the new miniatures apparently used to work for Games Workshop for Citadel. So it's not like it was a completely different thing. They're similar, but you can see some differences. So like if you look at the elf figures from the Elf Quest pack, the heads are smaller, the heads and the hands are smaller. Because if you look at the elf from the game system, like he's got a big head, big hands. That's kind of the style, the Games Workshop style. And he looks like a wood elf. It's kind of the Warhammer Fantasy equivalent, and so on. So there's some interesting little bits in there. And some of the stuff they're not really sharing with the public yet, but they drew out a lot of the tiles, and they were just sketches, just hand drawn. They drew out the maps, and it was funny because I mean they didn't take the blank map from the back of the quest, like they told us, and cut it out and photocopy it. They were just drawing it on paper. So just draw a big square and write table on it. Pretty simple. And then they would create it in whatever they're using. I guess their equivalent of HeroScribe, put it out there. I did notice that the whoever the project leader, that person that was in charge, who would send out these typed letters to the different designers, said something like, and there's no names here, of course. Okay, there's this one spot where there's a treasure chest, and you can put traps all around it. But because of a problem, loophole in the rules, the hero doesn't have to walk up to the chest to open it. Well, duh, I could have told you that. When you search for treasure, you just find what's in the chest. And I wanted to scream at the page, no, that's not how you do it. If you want to make the heroes have to search for traps first, you just make a furniture trap. That is, you take the treasure chest and you make it orange, meaning it's got a trap on it. And you put in the notes, if they search for treasure before disarming the trap, this happens. A poison needle hits them, a blade hits them, explodes, whatever. And then you also find what's inside it, which whatever it happens to be. So there's an example. I think it's the Barbarian quest back. I'm just gonna see if I can remember. I think it's the second one, second quest. There's a room where they put a treasure chest, and then a couple squares away they put this square, this box of spear traps around it. And it's so silly because if you search for treasure, you get what's in it. You don't get hit. The only way you get hit is if you walk up to the chest, which there's no reason to ever do that. But anyway, in the notes, the guy was discussing. He was saying, well, what you could do is put a monster next to the treasure chest. So that way they can't search for traps first, and they'll walk up to the monster and get hit by the trap. It's like, oh, okay, that makes sense. But really what you'd want to do is just put a trap on the chest. And if you want to put other traps in the room, fine. But the only version of the game where you actually have to walk up to a chest to open it, to get the contents, is the Japanese version. That's the only one. The European version didn't require that. First or second edition. North American version doesn't. Remake doesn't. It was just never part of the game. So anyway, some people have homebrewed that, but it wasn't part of the game. So lots of interesting little details here. Yeah, so there was going to be new spells. Apparently, the Dwarf Quest pack was not going to have any new magic, but it was going to have new artifacts. So I thought, well, does that mean there'd be new spell scrolls, maybe? But the dwarf, being just a fighter guy, I mean, he doesn't really need magic, but there'd still be potions, there'd still be artifacts. One suggestion that they made in the notes was, well, what if there's a stronger version of a trap? So normally a hero who has a toolkit has a 50% chance of rolling a skull when he's trying to disarm a trap. And if he rolls a skull, he fails and the trap springs and hurts him. But if it's a black shield or a white shield, he disarms it. The dwarf never needs to buy a toolkit. He'll just say, I'm disarming the trap. You put him on the trap tile, or trap square, rather. You roll one die, and if it's a black shield, oh, he sprung and he got hurt. But if it's anything else, he's fine. So he's only got a 1 in 6 chance of failing. Well, they were saying, well, what if we introduce a stronger kind of trap where the toolkit heroes only have a 17% chance of success? So I guess they have to roll black shield to beat it. And then the dwarf will have a 50% chance. So it's riskier. It's like, oh, that's kind of a cool idea. They also mentioned something that I hadn't really thought about, but I guess some people played like this way all along, is that jumping traps is something you can do anytime, which I thought, huh? I mean, we only jump traps if you found a trap, like searching for traps, and then Zargon points at the square and says, oh, the floor looks weak. Okay, well, that's obviously a pit trap. So I'm jumping the trap. So you've got your movement already. You roll your attack die, and if as long as it's not a skull, you jump over it. Or if you're wearing rabbit boots for like from the expansions, then you just roll anything but a black shield to get over it. Well, apparently the design team assumed that you could just jump a trap anytime. So I guess as you're moving through the corridors, you're like, oh man, I'm sure there's a trap there. Jump in the trap, and you roll. Of course, I guess at that point Zargon would just be like, there's nothing there. You succeeded, but there's nothing there. Because otherwise, it could be a way to just, well, disarming a trap is an action, but searching for traps is an action too. I don't know. From the hero's point of view, it would seem like searching for traps would be much more economical. Oh, wait, I see where it could be valuable. Let's say you're in a corridor or room and there's monsters present. If there's monsters present, you can't search until the monsters are cleared out. So what you could say is, I'm jumping the trap, meaning if there is a trap there, you're going to be jumping over it. And then after you've done it, then Zargon could be like, well, great job, but there was no trap there. But if there was, you could jump it. So actually, that is a kind of a helpful thing, but it was never mentioned in any official text. So we never really knew that was what they were intending. So anyway, just an interesting little thing. So I may incorporate that into my games going forward. It's like, hey, you don't have to know there's a trap there to jump. You could try to just jump. So, well, here's the problem. This would be a rule clarification because in the original rules it says, and it says this in the Japanese version too, if there's a trap on the opposite side of an open door. So you open the door and there's a trap on the square right on the other side. There's no way you can search for that trap. If you walk through, you're going to get hit by it. Period. End of story. The only way you could avoid it is to somehow guess that it might be there and use pass through rock to like enter the room a different way or hope, there's a secret door that lets you go around it. But if you just open a door and say jump in the trap and roll your die, it's like you're jumping through the doorway over the pit or the spear or the falling block. So that would be a way to actually bypass that. That's brilliant. But they never mentioned it in the text, so it's not an official rule. But it could be an interesting house rule because otherwise, yeah, that trap is it's just you're screwed, as the hero. You just get hit by it. So jumping the trap when you don't know there's really a trap there every time you go through a doorway. I mean, you still have a 50% chance of failure, or 1 in 6 chance of failure if you've got the rabbit boots. The other thing is, if you jump the trap, does Zargon have to tell you there was ever a trap there? He could just keep silent, saying like, "Okay." It would be only if you failed, that he'd say, "Oh yeah, you failed, and there was a trap." So anyway, that's an interesting little thing, a little bit. I thought it was interesting to learn that little tidbit that they had thought of it. Would seem to make the game a little easier. Yeah, and they talk about new chaos spells. Some of the stuff hasn't been revealed yet. Oh yeah, so this was a scan. Let's see, did we talk about this? Greetings, chosen ones. So much to do in so little time. By now you are all familiar with the rules and components of our HeroQuest world. I hope that you've studied the new things in Keller's Keep and Witchlord. Your task is to create a new quest pack before the end of November. There will be 4 new quest packs, each centered around one of the 4 character types. Notice they don't call them classes or races, they just call them character types in the game. So the names of each pack should be something that includes the character name, i.e. the Lost Wizard, the Dwarves of Doom, Barbarian Blades, Elven Magic. Each quest pack will contain at least one female figure of each character type, so the female players don't have to play a male character. So it goes on. Your quest pack will contain the following items: 2 runners, so that's what they call those sprues, of plastic figures, a quest book, a 10-inch by 18-inch die-cut folded cardboard sheet, a deck of 30 cards, and a cross-sell flyer. Got to get those cross-sell flyers. Plastic runners. There will be 2 new runners in each quest pack. On the first runner, there will be 1 female character figure, A, 1 figure B, 2 figure Cs, 2 figure Ds, 3 figure Es. You get to specify that B, C, D, and E are. The other runner will be one of the 4 runners to be contained in the next British quest packs. Oh, interesting. Yeah, because I'm thinking 1992 is when the Elf and Barbarian quest pack came out. So this was probably typed before that, of course. They must have come out in record time. And I believe it was it Wizards of Morcar that came out in 92, I think. But it looks like after 92 they didn't release anything more except for Legacy of Sorcel in 94, which was just a computer game. Most people didn't even know about that. But yeah, I guess 93, 94, they would have seen more quest packs if these had gotten done. Okay, I will tell you what will be on this runner. You'll, whoops, lost my place there. Too small. I'll tell you what will be on this runner. You will write these figures into your 10 quests. Don't design fat, bulky, or huge figures. These figures will have to be about the size of the figures in the basic game. If you want 8-legged spiders, then you may not have room on your runner for anything more than the female figure and 3 complete spiders. You don't have to submit a drawing of the figure, but a description would help. You cannot use any of the trademarked or copyrighted figures in any of the major role-playing systems. You can use generic or mythological figures, or you can make up things on your own. I may give each of you different direction based on which character you are doing. Important. Look at the first letters that begin all of the monsters so far. G, Goblin. O, Orc. F, Fimmer. C, W, Chaos Warrior. S, Skeleton. M, Mummy. Z, Zombie. G, Gargoyle. And C, W, Chaos Warlock. Whoops. Note that the 2 abbreviations, Goblin Gargoyle and the Chaos Warrior Chaos Warlock, are the same. The problem with this is that when you're using your maps, you can't just put G in the space to tell what you want there. In the book, you have a different icon for everything, but the Chaos Warlock, which has no monster card, no icon, and no fixed stats. When you design your monsters, try to use different letters, just so it's easier for you to make your maps and easier for us to convey your maps to our graphics experts. So there you've got a division of labor. You've got people making the miniatures, you got people making the maps, and you got people writing the quests. I'm sending you a sample map and marked up example map. Important. Choosing your 4 monsters is the first milestone that you will have. You need to get started on the design of the plastic parts. You must hire an artist to draw the figures, and then hire a sculptor to make patterns. And then a larger mold has to be created. This takes lots more time than anything else. So neat little insight into the design process. And actually I had bookmarked all kinds of things here. We just switch over. Let's see. One second. Yeah, I was going to look at these quite a while ago. But, I was so busy over the holidays. I had a good Christmas, New Year's. It was fun. But didn't get a lot of HeroQuest stuff done. I did get to play Battle Masters a lot. I really hadn't played it that much before. I played it over Thanksgiving. But yeah, let's see what we've got here. may have looked at some of this stuff previously, but so there's some artwork of the Minotaur drawing, and that sketch has been out for ages. Taco, or yeah, Taco, I think that's his name. Could be saying it wrong, but yeah, he basically got in contact with the artists, and they weren't able to tell him a lot of the stuff at that time. This was years ago, like 10 years ago now, 10 or 11 years ago. And so, but he did get to post some of those things. Toka, that's his name, not Taco. I'm thinking of the music video from the 80s. But yeah, so there's that. And then there's a picture of the Skaven. Some people call them Skaven, but they're Skaven. And you can see it looks somewhat different than the Warhammer Fantasy Skaven, like Scavenger, but a rat man basically. So, yep. Let's see, did I have any other pictures? Basically it. Not too many windows open. Just close these down. Yeah, so the Lost Quest. So that's a big deal. The other thing I want to talk about is the Legacy of Sorasil quest pack. Now, what the heck is that? What am I talking about? Well, so Legacy of Sorasil, as I've probably said many times by now, is this. Oh, there's my regular screen. Hey, hey. Welcome to HeroQuest fans. Yeah, so Legacy of Sorasil was a computer game that was released in 1994, and it was like the last official HeroQuest product until 2021 when we got the Hasbro remake. And it was not for every computer system. It was for the Amiga computer, which is now defunct, and then the Amiga CD32, which was one of these really expensive consoles. See, a bunch of 32-bit consoles came out, and they pretty much all flopped or died, other than the PlayStation from Sony and the Saturn from Sega. And the Sony PlayStation just beat the heck out of the Saturn. And it was kind of a sad story. Apparently, there was a lot of upheaval, and Sega's management and the leadership decided, yeah, let's just cancel the Saturn and throw all our money into the Dreamcast. And I really liked the Dreamcast. I like the Saturn too, but apparently they just overextended themselves and just forced themselves out of the console business, except for making licensed software. And now Sega is kind of just not really thought that highly of anymore. It used to be they were, Nintendo's biggest rival. I mean, they were neck and neck. But anyway, yeah, the Amiga CD32, nobody remembers that system. But Legacy of Sorasil was called HeroQuest 2. Why HeroQuest 2? Well, in 1991, there was a PC game called, naturally, HeroQuest. And it was a weird kind of hybrid version of the game because it was based directly on the European first edition of the game, but some of the rules were more like the North American version, some of them were more like the second edition. Some stuff was simplified. The AI in it was just terrible. Like monsters couldn't leave rooms that they started in. So you could just run away from monsters and you could stand just right out of reach and just kill them easily. And the screen would only show you like sections of the corridor at a time. So you could actually search each corridor like 4 times because you'd only see like a portion of it. You could search it for treasure, just like the first edition. But you could only search each thing once. So it wasn't like each hero could search each room. So it's really weird like that. And just like the European version, I mean, you lost potions in between quests, but you couldn't pass items. You couldn't pull your gold. If you play the Rescue of Sir Ragnar, you'll see the map is very simplified. It's very small, and you're basically guaranteed when you rescue Sir Ragnar that there's no monsters left. And he has no movement restrictions like he normally does. I mean, he can go up to 12 squares easily. and he's got 6 mind points, which is interesting. I guess so that you can't kill him with spells, even if you wanted to. And they also made it so that the wizard, gosh, I could do a whole stream on this. Well, just I'll say a couple more things. So the wizard has no restrictions on his gear. Like, not only can he use the Spirit Blade and Orc's Bane and wear Borin's armor, he can wear plate, he can use a battle axe, he can use a crossbow, and you can use a spear with a shield. And yes, you can't use a battle axe or a staff with a shield, but you can just like toggle the shield off and switch back and forth on your turn. And the holy water will kill all of the undead in a room or corridor, not just one. So it's really powerful. So yeah, that's sorry, I just heard some alarm going off in my building. Yeah, okay, so I'm gonna just stop the stream for a second because I think there's an alarm going off. If that's a fire, we'll need to get out of the building. But I'll just rejoin hopefully in a minute here. Fire's no laughing matter. So thanks for joining us in HeroQuest fans, and hopefully we'll see you soon.